Hello. Good to see everybody here this afternoon. This is my third Webit, and always great to be back in Sofia, thanks to our good common friend Plamen Rusev and Anelia, his lovely wife. So even more excited right now to have a conversation with my good friend, one of the world's leading AI entrepreneurs. Shaukat's company, Youplus, has not only won the Webit Award yesterday, which was a surprise and quite nice, but also has won a top award for being the fastest growing AI company in the world right now, which you might guess is an extraordinary recognition. So Shaukat, I want to talk about two things. I want to talk about Youplus. What is this thing? How does AI work? And what are the implications? And then a little bit about being an entrepreneur, because I think there are a lot of people in the room who are entrepreneurs or who might be crazy enough to think they want to be an entrepreneur. So with that in mind, Shaukat, tell us a little bit about Youplus. Where does it come from? What's it doing?
Youplus is, we started with the idea that, video has become so big. We started our career when internet was first coming out and everybody was talking in text. And we see fast forward 20 years, we see everybody is kind of expressing themselves in video. And when people are expressing themselves in video, it is like movies. It's light, camera, sound. So they are expressing their emotions, they're expressing how they feel, they're talking about their pets. They're talking about everything. So it's like as if 1 billion people are talking.
Because 1 billion people are talking.
That's correct. That's my math. Today, the best tool humanity has to understand each other is when we talk to each other, when we actually listen, we understand each other. But if we could listen to 1 billion people talking voluntarily, we will understand humanity better. That's how we started this journey, and it is deeply rooted in technology. So we figured out how to really understand what people are saying without really saying it. And we could connect the dots, so we could understand them better and we could make better decisions, or we could have businesses ask better questions and make better decisions.
So give us an example of this. What do you mean by understand what people mean even though they're not saying it? How does Youplus help you to do that?
So it's very simple. When people, let's say you want to talk about, or you are the Golden State Warriors. For all the people who don't know about basketball, they're playing the finals today. So if you are talking about basketball and you're a fan of basketball and you post it online, you said the game last night was great. But you don't say the game last night between the Golden State Warriors and the Houston Rockets were great. You don't talk like that. You said the game last night. You say, let's say you're talking about a phone. You say, this phone works great. You don't say, this iPhone XM. You don't say it like that. Right? So you really have to understand what this is, what the game last night is. Because that's how we talk as a human being. We talk in implied languages. It's my good friend. I point to you, and I never said, it's my good friend. So it's kind of understood. Right. So that's what we mean. We have built technology to be smart about it. We don't understand all of it, but we know enough of it to be dangerous now.
So you're using the technology, you're helping the technology understand context and understood what's not said. And in the longer run, that should be an extraordinarily important advance for artificial intelligence in general.
Correct, and that's what we call it. I like to say it is augmented intelligence, not artificial, because when you use the word and we get too caught up with the word artificial, it sounds like it is invented, like in the thin air. It's actually not. You augment, human understanding of logic by giving it machine support. That's how it works. So we do that, and the goal is, not only you would understand what they are implying, you would understand so much about them. For example, today we can figure out what state of mind somebody is in by just looking at what they're saying.
So it's only based on the words, the syntax, or it's also
Correct.
based on facial expressions or other things in video? Or
yeah,
not?
So facial expression then comes into understanding what you call emphatics, right? So when two people say I like it versus I like it with a slap on the table, it actually means different than
Yeah.
if somebody says I like it with a shrug. That actually means completely the opposite. So when we are clever about understanding the differences between these three scenarios, we get closer to, again, understanding humanity.
So in the process of building, and Youplus is about 4 years old now,
Yeah,
is that right?
correct.
In the process of building this company, and this is your 6th company, I believe, right?
Correct,
In addition to developing Yahoo Messenger originally years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah,
long
so
time
when
ago.
you were 12 years old, apparently.
11.
Shaukat. 11 years old. Oh, wow. Okay. So what's something that you and your team have learned at Youplus that you didn't expect? Something you said, wow, it could be technology, it could be business, it could be humans, anything. Something that surprised you.
I think our surprise came in 2 steps. The first set of surprise were like we were really surprised by kind of videos that are out there. When we started, we thought, the videos we're gonna find out there, they're gonna be all about pet videos or like random stuff that are not meaningful. What we ended up finding is about everything, which was really surprising. So the depth of information in the video web surprised our mind. And the second part of our surprise came I would say, in a more positive, more interesting way for us. I would say almost a year and a half or 2 years down the road, when we actually started to break down and looking inside videos and did it automated way, which we thought we could never do because we are trying to figure out how to really look inside videos and capture these things using a programmatic approach.
So this capability has advanced a lot faster than even you thought when you started the business.
Yes, correct, because we didn't know whether it's possible at that time.
Right, and you found that it is possible.
We found that we are the first step of it is possible. We are doing that today. We are doing millions of those videos, but and we know how to go to the next steps, which was very interesting. It's a journey.
What are the next steps, to the extent you can share those with us today? Tell us something highly confidential, by the way.
The next step for it, and I will spare you the boring details of businesses, but the next step of it is there's something. We are both from US. As you know, the world today is divided. You pick any part of the world is divided.
Yeah.
It's divided on topics that are very important for us. How do we live? How is our government governed? Things that really makes a difference in our lives. However, with that said, you take US for an example. Regardless of which way you support, there are 2 camps, right? I mean, you support this way or that way. So you don't think one part of US is all wrong people, right? That's not true. That means we don't understand each other. So if we could get closer to understanding the other person, the perception of why they think how they think, I think we become a better, as a civilization, we become much closer to maturity. So that's our kind of next step. It is not an easy thing to do, but we are taking steps towards understanding that.
So, Shaukat, it sounds on a philosophical and practical basis as well that you're talking about the meaning of truth. What is truth? How do we understand and agree on what the world actually is? What does that even mean?
So truth is about, this is a very dear topic to us. So we are working on a thing called proof of truth. So what does truth mean? If you really look at it, truth is relative or interpreted to that person, right? Nobody willingly, barring some bad people, but most of the people in the world are good people. Barring the bad people, everybody thinks whatever they're doing is true, right? So, and it's truth. So there is a perception of truth. So, but it is personal. It is, I think this is true.
Yeah.
So from the other perspective, to understand what is truth is how closely your narrative, your perception, comes to actuals. And it's never a binary thing. You're never really talk about truth in zeros and ones. You have to talk truth with some adjectives to it. You have to add some things to it so you understand and interpret truth.
Yeah.
So that's what we are trying to do. Again, it's a complex thing. I would not claim we are there yet, but we have taken steps towards getting there.
So in this process of building Youplus and thinking these, one of the things I love about your business, Shaukat, is it has direct business application with serious value propositions, but it also strikes right at the heart of some very significant social philosophical issues we're facing in the world. Yeah. So what's something you've learned over the past 4 years, or maybe has been reinforced for you by what you've discovered in the process of building Youplus?
You know, so we have done, I would say, most of our work with businesses and understanding how businesses really interpret how their customers are thinking, what that kind of stuff. But that's like just pure running business.
Yeah.
What was interesting to me is when we touched some topics that are I call it non-monetary, not non-revenue generating. So recently we started covering the election that is happening in India, for example.
Yes.
As you know, that's one of the most highly controversial, let's not call it controversial, highly talked about elections. The incumbent prime minister is coming back, and there's a lot of press in the media, and people are talking about from all different angles. So we, for the first time, we took a crack at really understanding thousands of people's opinion and kind of matching that against what is really happening.
Wow.
So it was really interesting because, you know, with all the propaganda that is happening on the press and everywhere else, turned out to be the people's opinion and what they are saying. It's coming very close to what reality is, which is interesting to us.
What do you mean, people's opinion? Just an individual or everybody together in aggregate?
Yeah, it's as an aggregate what they're saying. So when people are, again, beauty about video when they're talking is people are not saying, I like this, I don't like this. People are saying, I like this because, I don't like this because. So that because is actually more interesting. Because you want to know why. We actually often use this tagline for our company. We call it the science behind the why. We want to know the why.
Yeah.
We want to say, why do you feel a certain way? Yeah. So that's what we're doing on this one. And it's been fascinating to just watch it. We're not fully matured there yet. But and our objective is, as we see more and more things like that, the US election is coming up, we will be mature enough to help in a non-partisan, non-biased way everybody.
Great. I can't wait to see that roll out. But let's go back to the reasons why, the because. Why did you become an entrepreneur? I mean, this is not the easiest path in the world. It looks glamorous when you're sitting on the Webit stage, but you and I both know it's not the easiest path in the world. Why be an entrepreneur?
You know, I have to say there is a real story and there is a made-up story.
I want the made-up one if it's better.
So the made-up story is looks so cool when you have made-up story is really bad.
Okay.
Let me tell you the real story. Real story is it's pure accidental.
Really?
You know, my first company is right out of college when, you know, we were computer science students in University of Texas in Austin. And there's a company came to us, and we are computer science students. They say, hey, can you do this? And we say, yeah. Maybe we should write a company.
Yeah.
So we created a company and sold that to them. And we sold it so fast, we thought, wow,
this is
how
easy.
It works, right? So we started another one, like, oh, this was a little bit difficult, and so on and so forth. So it was, I'm an accidental tourist in entrepreneurship, I would say. I wish I could tell you everything I did was very deliberate, but then that would be the made-up story, and I'm sure you don't care about it.
So very important Which is better, Star Trek or Star Wars, and why?
Holy cow, because,
You have to choose.
I would choose Star Wars over Star Trek.
Okay, why?
Because Star Wars is Jean-Luc Picard, He's
No,
the
that's
cool-
Star Trek.
Oh, sorry, Star Trek.
Okay, thank
Sorry.
goodness. I thought I was going to have to tell you you were wrong because, of course, Star Trek is better
Yes.
than Star Wars.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, all right. I think we can agree on that. All right.
Star Wars is like going back to the same story.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Star Wars, there are people, they have androids and spacecraft, and they can do warp speed, but there's some guy driving the ship. Does that make any sense?
I know.
It's like a World War II firefight in space.
Exactly.
Makes no sense.
Correct. I agree with you.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, back to being an entrepreneur. What's something unexpected you've learned about this thing, being an entrepreneur? Something you didn't read it in a book. You didn't say, oh, I bet it's going to be like this. Some anecdote from your life as an entrepreneur that you're willing to share today.
So this actually is a topic that could draw a lot of disgruntlement. So when I became an entrepreneur, so my first few companies it was very, never thought about raising money, didn't even know what that is. Then I did a bunch of companies where we raised a lot of money from VCs and stuff. Then when I was becoming an entrepreneur, in a more traditional sense, Silicon Valley entrepreneurs, I read all the books that are out there of how to be an entrepreneur, how to be a CEO, and they were all very confusing. Then I listened to all the people talked about how to build great companies. They have top 10 reasons, top 6 things you look for. I looked at all of those things, and honestly, none of those things made any sense to me because I couldn't relate to it. Not that they're saying it incorrectly, I couldn't relate to it. Like, really, if you know when the market should work, if you had the best team, if you could build the right technology, if you have the courage, of course, then it will work. But what if you don't have those? So I was looking for my own reason. Like, how does it work, really? And I think I have my own version now. Honestly, that version may only apply to me, but I have my own version now. I think that kind of works.
Version of what? Version of being an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
And what does that look like, other than Shaukat Shamim, which is obvious?
I think if you are an entrepreneur, you need 3 things. If you worry about these 3 things, give or take, at some point, you will make it. I think, first of all, before those 3 things, in my opinion, you should ignore everything else.
Okay.
All the people who are saying do X, Y, and Z, just ignore it, because it's not going to apply to you. The number one thing you need to be an entrepreneur is you need love. You don't need to have an idea. You don't have to anything. But you have to love what you do. You have to love it like you love your life. You have to be in love to do what you do. The second thing is, will sound funny, you have to have doubts. If you don't have doubts, you're lying. Doubt is essential to faith.
Mm-hmm. Faith without doubt is a thin faith.
You're lying. You have to have doubts. And the last but not least, the thing that will drive you towards completion is you have to have that faith on the universe, of that unknown.
Faith in the universe.
On the universe. Because you really cannot connect the dots with the first 2. You actually wouldn't know, or if you can read everything, but it will still not connect with you. But you have to have that faith that somehow it is going to connect, and that will keep you going.
So last question, and no explanation. 3 words to describe how you feel about the future. Hyphens are acceptable. 3 words to describe how you feel about the future. No explanation. Hyphens are acceptable.
Extremely hyper-optimistic.
Extremely hyper-optimistic. Well, in the midst of love and doubts and faith Sometimes accidents are happy accidents, and one of those is your life as an entrepreneur. Shaukat, finding everything. People are talking about everything online, and we can literally find everything. How do we live? How do we govern? What is the proof of truth, and what does that even mean? How do we express ourselves in videos on a daily basis? And it's interesting to me to note that never before in the history of humanity have we had such granular, invasive opportunity to see and remember in the way that we do going forward. We talk to each other. Wittgenstein, one of the great 20th century philosophers, said, all life is word games, and you're right in the middle of that game, Shaukat. Thanks so much for what you do.
Thank you.
Great.